In Thailand, I moved into a cheap hotel, but pleasant enough. It was run by an English couple, and they wasn't making such a great success of it because it wasn't a hotel as far as I know. They were renting it from probably Thai people. Anyway, at the bar that evening, I got talking to another English fellow who I ended up calling Dodgy Dave. Bit of a rascal. But like all rascals, he had a positive attitude, outgoing nature, and everyone liked him, including me. It turns out he hadn't paid his rent to the owners for some time. Not only that, but he was getting free drinks at the bar and borrowing money from them, which of course he never paid back. But that was his lifestyle. And good for him. So we decided to go across the road to this absolutely wonderful go-go bar. Well, maybe it wasn't a go-go bar because I never saw any girls dancing on plimps or anything, if I remember rightly. But it was a beautiful bar. Now, on the first floor, because the bar was on the ground floor, but on the first floor, they had a swimming pool. Now, when the girls jumped into that swimming pool, they had a glass front to one side of the pool, which so when you were standing at the bar downstairs, you could see the girls underwater in the pool, in the wall behind, because it was glass. It must have cost a fortune to make that place. But as usual, they spend a fortune, they lose a fortune because they don't get the business. Eventually it did shut down. But anyway, the trouble is the bar was in the wrong area and the fella didn't know how to get customers to the bar. So as soon as we entered the bar, absolutely gorgeous girls, all around the age of 19, dressed skimpily, which I like, half naked basically, in high heels. And next thing I know, we're standing there and we're surrounded by girls. Unbelievable. There must have been, I don't know, at least 10 girls surrounding us because we were the only people there. And they're all touching me and talking and coming up really close and asking me to buy them a drink and, you know, asking me questions, normal questions, what country do you come from, etc. So they all spoke, even though they're Thai, they all spoke a bit of English. And the first thing that came to my head at that moment, this is heaven. I've never experienced that in my life. If I had to dream about it, it would be a dream I would like to have every night. But this was real. Well, he never paid. If he did pay for sex, he paid very little money for sex. I could assure you of that. He didn't like to spend money on the girls. He'd rather have them spending money on him. But also, it seemed a bit expensive, that bar, so we just bought a few drinks for the girls and bought a drink for myself, and an enjoyable time, basically. Now, one of the girls there was a petite girl, really smaller than the rest, and I could see when I looked closely that she's a bit older than the rest. She must have been in her 30s, maybe even late 30s, I'm not sure. Because I think I saw a crease around the side of her lip. Anyway, I remember maybe 6 months after this, I was walking along past that bar, and this girl came, well, not 6 months, maybe 3 months. This girl came along. And in the past, I've always offered her money to come to bed, but she wanted too much, so I refused to offer that amount of money. But this time I offered the same reasonable amount of money, And she said, yes. Well, we got back to my place and it was one of the hottest times I've ever had with a girl in the bedroom. And afterwards I asked her why, and she said, well, she's been away from work for 2 weeks. She's been visiting her family and she was desperate for it. Wow. It's a bit like me with sweets. I stop eating sweets and I get more and more desperate for sweets as the time goes by. By the way, I'm not eating sweets now. I've given them up because of the weight. So, there was another girl at that bar. I often think about her to this day, years later. She, again, was much older than she looked, possibly in her late 40s, early 50s. And I could see that she was older. I'm not quite sure why I could see she was older, but she was. But she looked good. She had a wonderful personality, great body, great legs. And I used to see her on a regular basis, not in the bar though, at her place. She had this little room that she owned, which is unusual for the girls. They normally rent, but she owned this little room. And it had a separate toilet, I think. Yeah, it had a separate toilet and shower. She was so friendly and so warm and so inviting. When I used to go around to this room of hers, I just felt so good in her company, and it was like having a normal girlfriend, even though she wasn't. I can't say enough good things about this girl. And it used to amaze me how she could look so sexy, so good, even though she was quite old. But then I hadn't seen her for about 6 months, I think. And I was shocked when I saw her after 6 months. She had aged so quickly, as if she was holding back age and suddenly she let go and it just pushed through all at once. She'd become an old lady, an old woman. I was shocked. I managed to hide how shocked I was. By this time she owned her own little bar because she couldn't do anything else. Because men don't want a person at that age anymore. All the young girls are coming up, you see. The older girls haven't got a chance against the young girls coming up into the business. So anyway, I thought, well, I had such good sex with her, and I really enjoyed sex with her. Maybe we should do it again. So I did. I took her up to my room, and I realised that sex isn't just about sex, it's also about the look of the person as well. And she looked like an old woman. And it just destroyed it for me. And yet I knew that person that I loved so much was in that old woman's body. And I couldn't come to terms with that. I couldn't pull out that image and see her for what she was inside. Unfortunately, I realised that looks are very important to me. That's probably one of the reasons why I work out. Every time I go back to see her, because I do go to see her, I feel this longing to see her, but every time I go to see oh, that's another thing about her. Not only did she age, but her personality changed. She wasn't that warm, inviting person anymore. She was this old woman who seemed angry. And she was no doubt angry. She was angry at old age, I'm sure. Angry that men didn't take an interest in her anymore. That life had changed so drastically from an exciting life in a bar to this, being a manager of a small little bar where old men come. Some of them were foreigners like me. They go, well, in fact, most of them were foreigners like me, and they go and have a drink, and she just sits there and talks to people. What a boring life compared to what she was living before. As for Dave, because he gets around, he can draw people in and make them believe in him. He got a person who owned a bar, another English person, and he talked that person into letting him manage the bar while the person went back to England for 6 months. Well, you can imagine what this fella did. I don't call him Dodgy Dave for nothing. He was stealing all the profits. And terrible. Over 6 months he stole most of the profits from that bar. And then when he left that, he fell into a relationship with this Thai girl who was wealthy, and she took care of him. and she took care of him for a long time. He had a really good time. And for some reason they broke up, or maybe he broke up and had enough of her. But they moved out of the country, I think, to one of these other ones next door, like Vietnam or somewhere, I think it was. But when he broke up with her, he had absolutely no money at all. But he was wanted for breaking bail or something, or he was on probation. He didn't go. He broke his probation because he didn't go to see the probation officer. Something like that. It was a small offence, and he had no money, as I said. So he went into the British embassy in Thailand, and told them that he's a wanted man. And sure enough, they looked it up, and he was a wanted man. So they sent him back to England, all paid for by the English government. And he got locked up for a short time and then was set free, and he was okay after that. Amazing fellow. And of course, after he got back and was set free, because of his age and because he's very good at being able to manipulate things, he knows his rights, he managed to get a beautiful flat off the government. Beautiful flat. And because he's got cancer, he gets all that money every week, every month, or whatever it is. Yeah, he lives a very good life. Dodgy Dave. I never forget the man.